Bracy, some is missing on our side because they got Bracy Sewell and Willie had a daughter. Evelyn was married to Herschel Davis. They lived in Dixon. They had two daughters, Kathy. Evelyn divorced her.
All right, y'all, doing another one. Y'all know the Roadcaster. I'll probably have that one to back up in about 3 weeks. I got a bunch of stuff I got to do. When one thing rains, another comes, or whatever they call that. I don't know. So I got the wrong damn straw. So what we gonna do today, this is Digital Journal 37. The other one was 36. So I just uploaded that for you guys. Grand Rising, happy Juneteenth. I'll probably do like a quick little podcast, or I might cover it now, but I might do a quick little podcast. Now, I could make this a story time. So this is going to be somewhat of a digital. I might have a mixture of different things. I might have a mixture. I might edit it up, or I might just let it ride. So let me make this a little brighter so I can see it. There we go. Now the melanin can pop. I made it a little brighter so I could see it. So now, one of the things, I went to a Juneteenth thing at work. Now I'm contracting. And I went to make sure the culture was told correctly. Now it's corporate, but here's the thing. When it comes to everyone else, the stuff is going to be on point. So if you're going to be talking about somebody's culture, you need to have somebody from the culture to speak to it if you're going to do that. Now, is that necessarily for me to be no. It's just that, hey, you know what I'm saying? If you're talking about Juneteenth, I want to hear about it. Now, they didn't have no commentary, and the reason why they didn't open that up, for one, it's a financial thing. And I talked to some of the brothers over there. I talked to some of the other black folks, and I was just asking about it, like, hey, how was it last year? What did they do, or whatever the case may be? They said they had the holiday, but they didn't have the, So I tried to get the audio. I was trying to see if I could get the audio or something so I could review it and whatnot. And so now, y'all got to keep in mind this is corporate. Now, they're going to do the watered down, and that's fine, whatever. But if it's up to me, if I have a commentary, I'm gonna say something. Now, one of the nuances that I seen, they had some white lady up there, of course, and then they had a black lady. So the first thing they really try to start doing, I'm gonna tell y'all, you know what? Fuck that. We're gonna have to really start gatekeeping, far as, like they say, be bold, speak out. All right, so now we're doing that. When we have an opportunity to say something, we're gonna have to correct people if they're gonna put our culture on platform and open it up for commentary. Then we're going to have to say something if stuff ain't right. It's not about really putting yourself out on the radar and saying, well, so I noticed the first thing they said, and I wish I had the audio, y'all, to show y'all, but one thing that made my antenna go up, I thought I heard something interesting. And I said, well, let me just make sure if I'm not sure, because when I hear stuff like that, my antenna goes way up. The first thing that they start introducing was some author. I could have sworn they said something about an author from the trans community about a book that has something to do with trans something. I said, I said, whoa, there we go. They always decide. So that was to be expected. But I noticed that, and there was really nobody around me. There wasn't no other black folks in my immediate vicinity that I could tap on the shoulder and be like, oh, what did they say? So I was like, I sure wish I had the audio for that, or at least because I was writing stuff down. But what I will tell y'all is, they immediately tried to frame it with the gender divide. So I started sniffing some intersectionality immediately. I said, I started sniffing that immediately. they kept the context to a certain degree. They mentioned John Brown. Now, rest in power to John Brown. But they wanted to upkeep a white character, and they mentioned Frederick. So this is what they usually do. They mention Frederick Douglass. They mentioned John Brown. They didn't mention Nat Turner and Denmark Vesey. That's a part of our culture. That's part of a story, just like Frederick and all them other, just like John Brown. Now, if you look at John Brown's situation, he's white, and he went to them plantations and wrecked shop. I'm not sure. Y'all correct me in the comments. Was John Brown kicking it off before Nat Turner? In 1831, Nat Turner died, right? So Harriet, General Tubman, was 10 years old. So Nat, to my knowledge, Nat was before Harriet. Make me be clear. Y'all hold me accountable. Was Nat Turner before Harriet? He died in Hampton, Virginia, or he was murdered in Hampton, Virginia, and they burnt him down and took his oils and put it in bottles or whatever they say. Was Nat Turner before Harriet? I believe that Nat Turner was getting it cracking already when Harriet was 10 years old. You see what I'm saying? So they didn't. So they're not gonna mention that. But John Brown was kind of doing the same thing. He was going to them plantations and cracking it off. He was putting in work. He was putting belt to ass. So they're gonna get those three people. So think about this. They got a white guy. They could prop him up. Oh, he's white. Harriet Tubman. Put in rest in power to Harriet Tubman. Put in nothing but work. But they kept talking about woman, woman, woman. They said, oh, well, she didn't get paid from the U.S. Army because she was a woman. And I was like, no, she didn't get paid because she was black. If she was a white woman, they would have paid her. You see what they try to do? So that was an interesting part. Now, then they went out to some of the areas in Virginia. Foundational blacks, descendants of slaves, we have a lot of history in Virginia. The Dismal Swamp. I was talking to a white lady about it. I said, well, you know, because I was sitting there and this is what did it. I was sitting there by a white lady. She was like I don't know, like a top tier, you know, she was, I don't know. You never know who you talk to. And I was kind of looking around at the end. Folks were kind of looking around like, is there going to be some commentary? Is anybody going to say anything? Because you might have had, you probably had some white folks in there that wanted to know more. You see what I'm saying? Because it was just a generic blanket. What a Juneteenth. Now, one thing they said, there was barbecue. They said, you know, basically they said Black America started barbecue. I said, all right, cool. So they made some key points. They made some key points. What was cringe for me, they had this sister in there in a Carmen. Remember the Carmen San Diego? They said, where in the world is the Emancipation Proclamation or something? It was just like that, and I just shook my head, y'all. I'm gonna see if I could find this so I could play this for y'all. I just shook my head. I said, Lord. I said, and they had this sister in a Carmen San Diego, like you remember the Carmen. Y'all may not remember this. We 80s babies, but we had a Carmen San Diego. There was a video game or a book, or you know, it was like some kind of cartoon or something. Basically, in this. It was a TV show, and Carmen San Diego goes from place to place. It was some white lady or some Latin lady. She goes from place to place to find stuff. So they said, where in the world is the Emancipation Proclamation? They had, that's the way the audio was doing. They had some nigga, they had this black girl in the Carmen San Diego costume, and it was, the cringe was just, you were just like, I'm like, am I the only one? They could have did something else besides that. But I get why they did. They did it for a white audience. But I'm sitting there like, they mentioned the Civil War and Abraham from a standpoint as if Lincoln and these race soldiers really gave a damn. He freed us only to save the Union. Only to save, because the South was getting their ass kicked. There was black soldiers in the Confederate and the Union. But a lot of the Union's white soldiers were yellow bellies. A lot of them departed, believe it or not. So now, the context in the Civil War was that, and they never mentioned Harriet's gun either. that she kept that pipe to make Negroes, hey, y'all ain't going back to the plantation and you ain't snitching. We're headed up north or wherever we're headed. So I'm talking to this white lady. She's asking questions. You know, what did you think of it or whatever? Even she was like, man, some parts I was kind of like, but she didn't expound. But when she seen me shaking my head, because they did it like 3 times. Where in the world is the Emancipation Proclamation? I said, oh, man. See, they did that. So I shook I was like, oh, man. So she probably didn't like that part or whatever. So all of it was geared towards a soft shoe, white, leaning towards, they tried to lean towards intersectionality a little bit. It was hard because our holiday or our celebration has nothing to do with that. It has absolutely nothing to do with immigrants. It has nothing to do with minorities. It has nothing. This is a Black American thing. So they were trying to, they'll throw little bits and pieces in there. So what they try to say was, well, Harriet was a woman, so she was mistreated because she's a woman, and blah, blah, blah. They kept going towards that route, but they couldn't really go. They really couldn't go as far as they wanted to. Now, had it been something like, if they would have been able to bring it to the 60s, if it would have been something that happened around the 60s, they would have had a whole lot of room to throw feminism and all that bullshit up in there. But they weren't able to do it. They were trying to, they wanted to crowbar a little bit. It wasn't, they had to do it as much as they could. So they had this sister that was a guide, and she was talking about it and everything. And I don't know where her folks were from. I don't know if she was from Virginia. I didn't hear no accent at all. But, I don't know, y'all. Like, when I wrote my second book, I wanted to hear an accent. I found a sister from South Carolina to edit my book. I said, hey, I want you to edit this like medical apartheid. She knew exactly what I was talking about. When I heard that Southern drawl, I said, you're the one. Because I don't have to really explain to you our culture and our last 300 years in this country, so you understand what I'm trying to do. You see what I'm saying? When I heard that accent, when she got on that Zoom call, I said, you're the one. I told her, I said, it's you. Because I seen the work that she did, the journalism and stuff like that. But when that sister from South Carolina, when I heard that, she had that drawl. When I heard that Southern accent, the first couple words, I cut her off. I said, ma'am, you're hired. It's you. Because I seen her work already. And when I heard that country accent and seen where she was from, I think it was South Carolina, North Carolina, I knew she's the one. Because I went to a lot of brothers and sisters on Upwork. I went to a couple brothers from Nigeria, and them scamming ass niggas was trying to scam the shit out of me. They were sending me fake WhatsApp things and all this, and yeah, brother, I'll do this editing for you and all this. And they almost got me 3 times. I said, I'm gonna hire somebody from the diaspora, whoever does the editing. I said, it could be a white person. I said, but I need somebody that understands us. So there was a white lady. Yeah, I have a black husband and this, that, and the third. And I said, okay. I clicked her on the list because she had good work, but I don't know, man. She's going, cause and this wasn't you could tell she wasn't no white lady that grew up around black folks that was wiggified and kind of where she might be around us to really kind of know maybe some history to where, cause she thinks she's a Dolezal, so she thinks she's black, so she might tell the story like we would tell it. She wasn't one of those. She was one of those, if you have enough biracial kids, that'll eradicate racism. She was one of those, you know what I'm saying? So I said, well, she had good work. I said, let me set her to the side. So I go to the Nigerian dudes. It was a Nigerian woman, hey, I have, so they pinging me, and I was like, are y'all from America? Are y'all from here? So the time zone will be good. Because some of the work was cool, and it was simple enough work. And they're like, yeah, I'm from America. I'm in the time zone, but you hit me. Download WhatsApp. I'm like, WhatsApp, dude, just join the Zoom at this time. So they was lying. They wasn't on the time zone. They wasn't on that. So now I chose a sister from South Carolina because culturally she understood exactly what I was trying to say. She read Medical Apartheid by Harriet Washington, so she kind of understood that I was trying to use scholarly articles to justify and back my claim on my Black History textbook. You see what I'm saying? The only thing that might have been not the most accurate is I didn't have enough substantiated proof for the term Aboriginal. Now you have Aboriginal blacks in Australia. But there was a video that I just posted. Another archaeologist said he found a Negro skull here in America that's been here for thousands of years. How did that get there? Did somebody just come and plant it, dig it up and plant it? You see, how did that get there? So they're finding a bunch of different shit. You know what I'm saying? We know we have African ancestry. We know that. Everybody came from Africa from the jump. You can't say you never came there. Come on, but I wanted to get, and see, that's problematic. You're coming from Nigeria and a black man is trying to pay you to do editing work and you scamming. Now, somebody from here could have did that too, but the reason why I chose that sister to do that book is, and see, that's our culture. That's our Black American culture here in this country. I wanted her to be able to showcase that because she'll speak to it. Now, there might have been some issues or some things that I might have said that she may not have agreed with. She didn't nitpick. She didn't nitpick and say, oh, well, he doesn't support this or that, or he doesn't. She didn't nitpick. And I didn't do it, but I should have sent her a book, man. That's what I need to do. I need to send her. She never really got a final copy. I can't believe I forgot that. I'm gonna contact her today. I'm gonna say, sister, happy Juneteenth. I forgot to send you a book. Send me your address and I'll mail you a book. Cause I just realized that there was a bunch of people in the project that there was a brother that that was from the South African Observatory, or he was from Nigeria. I hired him. I think I paid that brother like $500 or $1,000. I don't know how much it was. He was a Tableau visualization person. I just wanted him to do some visualization. He was like a data scientist or something like that. So I hired I wanted as many black people as I could, and see, that's Juneteenth to me. What I mean is that we celebrate our Black American culture. We don't disclude his history, and we spend money with black folks. That's always been something we did. One thing that they covered, I like this. I'll give them this: the watermelon stereotype. The watermelon stereotype. I forgot. I'll give them that. They were talking about how black folks was making big money from watermelon, and how the white supremacists would try to infuse dissent and say, well, they just be dancing and eat watermelon and they some monkeys, that kind of thing. They showcase that. I like that. I'll give them that. They showcase the barbecue and they showcase the watermelon. Now, what they did not really talk about, because the watermelon selling, that came after slavery, but that was one of the things, like they mentioned something about red and some of the things that that we talked about. That we celebrated. One thing that they did not say is we weren't free after emancipation. We weren't free. Delaware, Kentucky still wasn't free. I think they might have mentioned that a little bit, but even after that, when we started rebuilding stuff in the early 1900s or late 1800s during Reconstruction, and we were trying to get ourselves together, we were making some headway. We cut our literacy by 50%. Dr. Claude Anderson talked about that. They didn't really get into that too much. There was a lot of key points. Now, as a black woman, that sister that was there, she should have harped on a little bit more. So I was real, when they sat her there with that white lady, that was real suspicious. I think that now I don't know who came up with doing this presentation, but that white lady should have expounded on this. So there was a person I emailed that was they were handling some of the communications or whatever. But for the next presentation, I may not even be there next year. I got a laundry list of things that they need to cover if they do it again. And the reason why is you got to have somebody, when you have somebody, just because they black and they sitting up there on a Zoom call and they're spewing out these little, you know, blanket key points. When I heard something about some book and it, that's why I really want that audio, because when I heard that, I said, am I actually hearing what they just said? And I wish there was another black person that I could have really attested to that. But until I hear the audio, I can't solidify it. But I could have sworn I heard something about some, you know, something ain't got nothing to do with Juneteenth, and we can't have that. Because see, now let's go further than that. You're seeing, now I was gonna do this on my program. So what I might do is I might do my StreamYard and show some stuff. But I seen some flyers. I've been looking at a lot of the flyers around. That ain't got the Juneteenth colors. The Juneteenth colors is red, black, and white. Grace Wisher made that flag. You're not gonna convince me that some white lady told Grace Wisher what to do. We was building everything. We not gonna fall for that one. They'll try to, and there's not a lot of information out there about Grace Wisher, but they said she was a freed black. I don't know if somebody buried it. You're always going to be suspicious of people doing stuff like that, because we done made damn near everything in this damn country. So, you know, here in Minneapolis, we've been celebrating. I didn't really go to the Juneteenth that much. I didn't go to the Juneteenth as I was, you know, when I was a lot younger. And a lot of people used to go. Juneteenth, it used to always be some bad chicks. All the sisters would be out there in the north side. That was a thing. And it was way over, I think, by Heritage Park over north. We didn't really go. I didn't really go. My homie used to go. And we used to hear a lot of times there'd be shootings and stuff like that. You know, black folk get together, man. It's gonna be some mess sometimes. So, you know, that don't really happen no more. But at one point when we were younger, I remember the conversation was, hey man, you going to Juneteenth? You going to, and a lot of dudes be like, man, I ain't going. Some of the dudes, but we never really discussed what it was about. It was a place where black folks met up. You know, they had food and all, but I didn't go. You see what I'm saying? I didn't go over north or whatnot. I was more interested in getting the history down as I got older, but it wasn't something that they sat down and my parents told me. Now, somebody may say, well, you ain't known about it now, so now all of a sudden we could do that. We black Americans, we could jump in and out of our festivals. We don't even have to participate in them if we don't want. We could sit at home and we could tell our kids, hey, look, this is our history. You could sit at home and say, you don't necessarily have to go. It'd be nice if you go and you fellowship. It'd be nice. Now they got it on Broadway and they blocked it off. The police blocked it off to where, you know, and, you know, there hasn't been no incidents. When I was coming up, there used to be like some incidents because you'll have a grimy and he'll see another grimy and then they got an issue. You know what I'm saying? That's all that usually be about. It'd be two dudes that have an issue with each other. But it's so many fine broads. I don't think dudes are going with the intention of catching their ops. I don't think that was the intention. It was just that we just happened to be there. You see what I'm saying? But that's what I remember in the 90s. And I was gonna go with my homie one time, and I was gonna go with Titan, but you know, being around so many people, it just kind of made me, you know, but we ended up going to his house and made beats and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So hip hop, black American culture, you know, but his house was over north. And so we were going to go over there and everything. And around that time we had the throwbacks. So my homie was supposed to sell me a throwback. I was going to go to Juneteenth with my throwback. I don't think I had my throwback, so I didn't want to go. The throwbacks was that deal. And so he was supposed to sell me the throwback before going to Juneteenth. He didn't pick up the phone. So he probably didn't want to sell it to me. He might want to keep it or whatever. But so we ended up going over there and making beats on his Roland TR-303 or whatever like that. And he was the one that told me what Juneteenth was about. You see what I'm saying? I was like, well, you know, it's probably going to be a bunch of this going on. They're like, hold on. Let me give you some history. And he could attest to that. He was the one that I was maybe like 17. I don't know how old I was. I was young. But he was the one that told me, no, this is what this is about, bro. You see what I'm saying? So now, but I still didn't go. I still didn't go. Like I say, the 2000s, around those times, there was a lot of shootings and stuff going on. So I didn't really want to, you know, we over north. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was a lot of shootings going on, you know, around and afterwards, because dudes would see each other. Everybody's out. Everybody's out. So just going over north, just going over, taking a 19 and going over north, you seeing sisters walk all the way from, they call it the Lowe's, across 55 highway, Olsen Memorial Highway. It's people that was in the Lowe's that would go, they would walk all the way up and go to Heritage Park. You know what I'm saying? If they ain't had no bus or whatever like that, it'd be some bad little thick bro. I'm telling you. You know what I'm saying? So it was a setup. Black folks will come together and stuff like that. I haven't been to the last couple. I don't even think I went once. You know, I don't think I went. I didn't really go. They didn't bring us to Juneteenth when we were younger. My parents didn't really go, you know, but Black American history was discussed, but they didn't really bring it to us. I'm gonna be honest. I think they maybe thought that it was too many shootings over north. Folks was getting their head knocked off over there on the regular. You know what I'm saying? So maybe they thought that, you know, they didn't really want me over north too much anyway when I was younger. I still went over there. There was no reason to go unless you were visiting a chick or whatnot. There was really nothing over there unless you're going to Brooklyn Park to shop or something like that. But we didn't have too much all our family, most of my family was over south. So I didn't have much reason to go. When I started meeting friends and I started meeting chicks over there, sometimes I go and hang out and stuff like that. But yeah, it used to go down. It used to go down, man. Because, I mean, you have, I mean, there's black folks over south. There was a lot. But over north, that's the Mecca. If you're from out of town, you know that North Minneapolis is where most black folks stayed at. And it was quite a few over south as well. You know, so, but I was supposed to do a story time. I was supposed to do 2 story times. Now it ended up becoming a you know, a kind of a Juneteenth discussion. Well, I was gonna get into the flyers. The flyers, a lot of the flyers that we've been seeing, that's not the Juneteenth color. The color is red, white, and blue. It's not red, black, and green. Some black folks might have took issue with the red, black, and green with colonialism and whatever. That's our damn flag. You don't discard that. Galveston, Texas does red, black, and blue. Or does red, white, and blue. So you go with the colors that Galveston, Texas does. Now, some black folks still do the red, black, and green because they want to have shown some love to Africa, or say, well, the colonizers' colors are red, red, blue, and white. So they made the red, black, and green as the Black American heritage flag, I believe. That ain't the right color. But so you're seeing a lot of people that'll use that nationwide, and we really should be using Grace Wisher's design. That's the Juneteenth flag, and they did do that at this presentation I seen. I said, let me make sure the color straight. You still have some black folks to do it. So you'll have some black folks out there with the drums, and you know, so they adhering to African culture. You know what I'm saying? They'll put some of that out there. So some people may not want the red, black, red, white, and blue. I say you supposed to have the red, white, and blue. That's the color. That's the correct color. That's the Juneteenth color. And the Texas, the color, the colors and the symbols based on Texas. Texas was the first place that they celebrated it. It's been celebrated for over 100 years. So you're supposed to adhere to the code. That's the color. But you still have a lot of people here in Minneapolis that do the red, black, and green. That ain't, you're supposed to adhere to that. But the person that made the Black American Heritage flag is a brother. So you still have people out there with the red, yellow, and the red, yellow, and green. So whatever, I guess, you know. You've been seeing that a lot. Here's the issue with what I've been seeing. You've been seeing, like they had some black folks that was tripping online about this, where it was some Caribbean fest where they were calling it Juneteenth. It had nothing to do with Juneteenth. It didn't have the colors, and they was twerking and carrying on. And that, if you look at all of our parades and stuff, we ain't doing all that. You couldn't go to your in front of your there's elderly people that be sometimes going to Juneteenth, and older people and stuff. Maybe the older people don't come out as much. You couldn't be twerking and doing all that. They not about to let you do all that. If you look at all of, like in the 80s, and you look at footage, and I'm gonna find footage and post this, because I was supposed to put this on StreamYard, so I might still do it today. I might still do it just to show y'all, you know, what it's supposed to be. I might do a little series, because I may not go to the events and whatnot. I might try to go. If I don't go to an event, I'm at least gonna try to, you know, go to my man Life Juices. You know, you go to a black business and spend some money. Go to a black business, spend some money. And it ain't got to be a foundational black American business. It don't. I had a homie saying, well, you know, you should go to he was trolling me a little bit. He said, man, you know, if Jamaicans got something popping and the food's fire like the one at Roseville, go break bread with them. It ain't got to be, it could be somebody from the diaspora. It can be, you know, especially if they, you know, it could be somebody, they treated me with open arms. So that's all we need. That's all we need, y'all. Getting on code with each other, that's all we need. Regardless of where you come from, if we good and we're open arms with each other, we good. Now, if we're not open arms, that's where the problem lies. That's where the problem lies. If you have anyone that's distorting the history and we're not open arms with each other, then that's where the problem lies. But the average black person I see, I'm typically open arms. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I like the Caribbean food. I'm gonna go shop there. And you know, like, I like fried chicken and all that. Well, hell yeah, I do. But I can't eat it that much no more. So like some of the businesses, I'll be like, man, shit, like, I can't eat a bunch of fried stuff no more. So I go to the Caribbeans because they don't make a lot of fried stuff. Now I'm not saying that there ain't no foundationals that got, you know, but if I'm gonna go, and there's a place in Brooklyn Park that we used to go to or whatever, and the food's good, but it's rich, and I can't handle it as much. So sometimes I might go to somewhere where it's a little, where the food is it's not as rich. You see what I'm saying? So like I love jerk chicken. I love Caribbean chicken. So, you know, like, and it's in my proximity. I'm gonna go there. They got this place, I always talk about it, that Jamaican spot in Roseville. That be one of my first spots because they have some of the best food. You see what I'm saying? So, and when I walk up in there, they got an accent. I could barely understand what they saying half the time. That's how I know that food gonna be authentic. Not somebody where I go to, and I ain't gonna say the name of the place, but it's a place y'all know that's very well in Minneapolis. The food's cool, but it's kind of watered down. That ain't real Jamaican. I mean, it's Jamaican, but it ain't like theirs. It ain't like that. I want to go somewhere where it's authentic. The language is authentic. The accent's authentic. I know somebody, You know, somebody that was born there, that got ties there. They still sound like where they're from. I know that food's gonna be on point. That food's gonna be on point. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, go break bread with a if you don't go to events, you could go break bread with a Black American business or a black business. You know what I'm saying? A black business is open arms with black folk. You know what I'm saying? So that's Juneteenth. Juneteenth is not just the celebration of our heritage. It's breaking bread. You see what I'm saying? It's breaking bread. And like I was telling my homie the other night, I said, we have a distinct heritage in this country that's worth noting and celebrating. We don't have to go back 700 to 1,000 years. Yeah, we know about ancient Kemet and all that, but we don't have to go far back where we could attribute it generically as, oh yeah, well, yeah, we're all from Africa. But I don't know who my descendants of King Tut. Some people might say you ain't got none. You know what I'm saying? Maybe, you know, with the Egyptians and that's a, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'll show love to ancient Kemet and stuff like that. I don't know how far I go. I know we go far as back 1700s. Beyond that, I know that some of my mom's people was in my mom's people, there was somebody from Nigeria. But I'm also hearing there's a white man in the mix. So there might have been a Tom Moore, a Chicken George Tom Moore, you know what I'm saying? There was a white man in the mix. I don't know if he owned us, but from what I understand, there was a great-great-grandfather. There was somebody that was white. I think Irish, in fact, or something. There was somebody that, and I don't know if he owned slaves. I got to go look at that book. Hell, I might have to go over south and crack that book open. I might have to go over south and crack that book open and see. But Nigeria wasn't called that in the 1800s. Some white lady named it in 1930. What was it called then? It might have been just called West Africa or whatever. What tribe? I don't know what tribe connected. That's all lost. And I was trying to explain that to my homie. I said, that's lost. We don't have any connection directly to that. I'd probably have to go to wherever that region might have been. That might have been 400-500 years ago. There was somebody they said that was from Nigeria. Now my dad's side is from Mississippi. We don't have a book like that. The book I'm talking about, that book from 1768, that book is on my mom's side. Now I'm now more interested in my father's side. You are of your father. So our folks is from Mississippi. And I'm hearing some things about South Carolina. They mentioned something about Blackfoot Creeks or something like that, or Blackfoot Indians or something like that. And, you know, that were involved in some tribe out there. Where did they come from? What part did they come from? Now, South Carolina, y'all know the history on Charleston and South Carolina. Half of us came through South Carolina at some point. So, like, a lot of us, New York, South Carolina, Maryland, right up, you know. So where did they come from? That's a lost history. I don't know. Now, I do know that one of my grandmother's grandmother was full Indian. Full Indian. But quote unquote red Indian? See, that's another thing. Because remember, they were reclassified. So, I don't know. But now, going back to my dad's side, Mississippi, Carolina. I have pictures of my dad's mother's grandmother. She looked like and I'm looking at her and I'm like, she looked like an Indian. Flat out. I think she was black. She looks like she looked like those folks over there at the reservation over south. If I showed you that picture and I posted up, she looked just like her. You see what I'm saying? She looked like an Indian. But black folks intermixed, like with the Dismal Swamp. They said there was black folks in the Dismal Swamp since the 1600s, or like definitely the 1700s, where there was natives that was there. They say Indians, quote unquote. They might have been black Indian. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But there was, for a fact, there was black folks in them Dismal Swamps since the 1700s. Easy. That's documented. So there was some intermingling and intermixing, people having kids, and so people mix. If you're around each other, you're gonna fucking mix, right? So they stayed in those swamps for hundreds of years until they came out in the Dismal Swamps. That's another thing I want to do. And hell, I might make that as part of one of my little programs too, as a Black History, the Foundational Freedmen Black History thing that might talk about that too. But how am I going to tie in technology, y'all? What kind of technology we could use to get some of this information? Tech, being black in IT tech. So that's a part of Juneteenth to me too. What I'm doing right now, I'm getting information, I'm relegating information that I've learned about my folks, and there needs to be an archive. There needs to be somebody from your family that's gathering information. What happened from 1700 on up, or 1700 to the 60s, or whatever the case may be? What happened before that? Can you go another 100 years back? Some of us may not be able to go. Not all of us have that book. Now, we could go to some of them plantations and find out, but some of that stuff cuts off. It might cut off at 1700 or something like that. So we celebrate our heritage from there, because that's what we know. We may not have, some black folks don't got the resources to fly on a plane to go to a tribe that may not even be there anymore in Africa. So they may say, yeah, my folks probably came from there. Majority of us probably came from West Africa. Majority. Now, some family members, they've had free blacks. Not everybody was a slave back then. A lot of them was. But there was some that was free. There was some that was free. That's a story that's worth uncovering too. Now, when I say the word free, people just figure, well, I'm not picking cotton no more. You were still in the system of the black codes and Jim Crow, even though you weren't tied directly to a plantation. Remember, when they took the slaves off of Angola, they put them back on Angola. Angola ain't really changed. You just got a set of rules and guidelines to just say, well, maybe you can't just string a nigga up from a tree in Angola, but them guards are still unaliving black folks in Angola. They still unaliving black folks in them plantation prisons in Louisiana. So what's the difference? The difference is you got more law and order, but the conditions are the same. They had black women and black men in Angola after slavery times. To my knowledge, from what I understand, is it was still the plantation. Remember, if you watch the movie Sinners, they had black folk giving them little fake money. They had to spend that on a plantation. Man, that's slavery. Sharecropping was just a new slavery, man. You still had a white man on a horse to come by and say, hey, you better do this, that, and the third. You still had a white person that could just sexually assault your woman and get away with it. No trial, no jury. You go to trial, we're going to string you up. So that's slavery to me, man. Well, y'all was free. Nigga, please. I said it, nigga, please. You know we weren't. You might have been free to go to the juke joint and become an alcoholic because of your conditions. You might have been free to play a little blues way out somewhere in a juke joint. You might have been free to walk and go into their store. You might have been free to do that. But you wasn't free, you wasn't in a completely free society. As free as I am right now, they weren't that free. I'm free to say what I'm saying right now. Black folks around that time may not have been free to that degree. So when they start talking about the freedom thing, that's another thing about Juneteenth. We got to put it in context now. The Emancipation Proclamation, there were 6 of them. The first one in 1770, the first one was with the British, but basically the North and the South was working. Hey, you Negroes come fight for us and we'll give you freedom. Hey, you Negroes come fight for us and give you freedom. So they were working in conjunction. We were the bargaining chip. That's what the Civil War was about. It wasn't about giving us justice, giving us reparations, and making sure we got what we needed. It wasn't about getting some boats and putting us back to Africa. That's not what it was about. They had no intention on saying. Now, after a while, once they started when people started revolting, they had these little bullshit recolonization efforts. Well, hell, y'all could go back to Liberia. Give us the damn money that we earned in this country. Give us that. And we'll go back if we want to. So they want to try to ship us back to get rid of the problem because we don't want to work for you no more. That's the only reason why you're trying to send us back home. Okay, well, hell, damn that. Let me stay here and give me my land. Give me the wealth that I created for you. That would have been just. They had no intention of doing that, y'all. The North and the South worked together to undermine us. They were concerned about their coins. They had no intention on preserving anything for us. I'm not talking away from some of the white abolitionists that were helping out and some of the people. But a lot of them were running a Black Lives Matter corporate scam. A lot of them were scamming too. You had a lot of the white women that was trying to use Sojourner Truth, and they tried to use Ida B. Wells. It didn't work. So, but you had a lot of scamming going on. You had a lot of feeding our future shit going on. You had a lot of feeding our future stuff going on. I know I'm going off on this rant today, man. It's Juneteenth, man. Come on, man. You had a lot of scamming and feeding our futures, Black Lives Matter, nonprofit, white liberal corporate going on. You had a whole lot of that going on where they'd be like, well, let's send them over here for women's rights and whatever like that. And they had told Ida B. Wells, hey, we don't give a damn about the black. This is Susan B. Anthony. And Elizabeth Wantan, or I can't remember her name, but it was Susan B. Anthony and all them white supremacists, woman suffrage, bunch of white supremacist demons. They wanted black women, much like they try to do with the little beehive and the collard green Harris crew. Yeah, join our cause against white men. No, you won't let black men vote. Ida B. Wells said, no, I'll be damned. They told Ida B. Wells, hey man, I'll cut my hand off before I let a nigga vote before a white woman. Who care about no male, no buck vote. No black male buck vote. We don't give a damn about no black male buck vote. That's what they was doing. They was pulling that off. They was running the same thing that the demonic Democrats was running now. Republicans too. Because remember, the Democrats was the Republicans. They get switched sides. And now if you notice, the Dems sound like the Republicans now. Oh, you niggers better vote. Oh, you better support lettuce, bacon, and tomato. Oh. You know what I'm saying? They do all that now. Oh, you better get out here with ICE and all that. You better do this. We're like, man, we'll sit our ass at home. Y'all fight. We done put in the work already. We done built the civil rights laws and all that. We ain't got to do a damn thing. Well, they're coming for you next. We were first. The hell you talking about? Damn it. We were first. You coming to us because you need us. We don't need you. You're coming to us because you need us. Oh, they're going to do this. Oh, the boogeyman. Be a true ally for once. And we'll think about it. Y'all got a lot of catching up to do. We done made all the civil rights that you enjoy from unearned benefits. Y'all got a lot of catching up to do. The scare tactics ain't going to work. There's bigger issues like Iran. That's what scares me. Them niggas scare me. They ain't playing no games. That's a bigger issue. Y'all need to worry about that. Why you got me out here trying to chase ice? You trying to get me to chase vanilla ice, baby? Yeah, y'all need to worry about that. Back to Juneteenth. We're off the subject. What was Umar said? You lose. Stay focused, Umar. Brother Umar said, stay focused. Stay focused. So the Confederate South had a lot of the Choctaw, the Creek, primarily Cherokee. And to put black folks back on the plantation so they could give them liquor and fine clothes, and you could just assimilate the whiteness, the 5 so-called civilized tribes. So that's all of these things are important in American history that need to be discussed in context. Natives owning slaves, some of course were brutal as hell because they sided with the Confederate South. Now some people say, well, black folks sided with the Confederate South too. They were slaves. We didn't have Union, Democrat, Republican. Either way, we're fucked. So we were kind of like, okay, well, let me sign up over here if I could get free. Let me sign up over there if I get free. That's all it was. What else better options were we going to have? Well, you had some black folks that was on the Confederate. Yeah. Black folks was on the Confederate South putting in their work, and the black folks in the Union was putting in their work. They wanted our support. You see what I'm saying? So black, yeah, there was people signing up, but I mean, what other better option did you have at the time? It wasn't like you could put in an application over here and get a better deal. You know what I'm saying? You weren't going to get a better deal either way. They're like, man, fuck it. I'm going to sign up wherever I can to get free. Shit. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of the so-called 5 civilized tribes, they're like, okay, if you coon out and you go catch these Negroes, we'll give you some alcohol. We'll give you some Hennessy and some fine clothes, some mighty fine clothes. And we'll do this, and we'll give you a little piece of land and carve this out. And so that the Indians was like, all right, shit, I'll go catch some niggas. So some of them that quote unquote owned slaves, and historian Jay Nightwolf talked about this a lot. He was sitting down with Farrakhan one day. And I think I'm gonna put that in there too. I got a couple different videos I should put in there, because I think I'm gonna go ahead and edit this. The Confederate South, you could look at pictures of natives that had the Confederate flag. They were riding for the Confederate flag. They were riding with them. Like the Japanese rolled with the Nazis. Y'all didn't know that, did you? Yeah. Japan had that Nazi flag up there. They were supporting race soldiers 100%. So it was like that. Some of the Native American tribes, actually, a lot of the 5 civilized, so-called civilized tribes owned slaves. Now, the slavery with some of them might have differed a little bit. I'm not going to necessarily have you pick cotton. When the white supremacists roll up and say, hey, that's my slave, they might say, no, he's ours. But he might have got married in with Pocahontas or something like that. So he got some little stringy hair kids and stuff like that. He might have not have been. There's instances where they say that, you know, the white supremacists rolled up like, hey, that's my slave. And they looking like, man, why is that nigga dressed so well? Why ain't he picking cotton? That's my slave. No, he's ours. So we claim him. But there might have been some family, you know, it might have been, and they try to pawn that off sometimes too. Like, oh, well, all the natives owned slaves where they had them on the fields. They probably did. Some of them likely did. Some of them likely were brutal. But some of them, you got to think, the natives didn't have a system where they're buying black folks from Africa. They didn't have that. That was imposed by the white supremacists. So some of them had black folks as quote unquote slaves that intermarried into the native tribe. So when you hear Cherokee freedmen and stuff like that, so you had that, Seminole Maroons, all of that. So they intermingled. Some of them were siding with the race soldiers and capturing black folks, scalping them, doing what, and bringing them back on the plantation, because they wanted them back on the plantation so they could work for free. So they would pay them to catch runaways. Some of them caught them and wouldn't let them go back to the plantation. So you had that going on too. But a lot of them, the 5 civilized tribes, had to give up their slaves in the 1866 Indian treaties. I believe that was 1866. So that's all around the same time, quote unquote, when we look at Juneteenth history. That was kind of around the same time, right? So now, that's important. Because when you look at, they say the Emancipation Proclamation, these folks had no intention on giving black folks full rights. When the Freedmen's Bank was made, they took that. We didn't get our 40 acres and a mule The Democrats didn't want that to happen. These folks work both hand in hand to undermine us. We freed ourselves. Nobody gave us freedom. You had the Nat Turners, you had Harriet, you had Denmark Vesey, you had a bunch of people, and a lot of folks that is unnamed that I may not be able to come up with. They made it possible for slavery to come down. There was no magical white man that said, well, I feel sorry for you Negroes. That did not happen. You see what I'm saying? So it's important that we tell the story. And see, that goes into another thing real quick. I might have to do a couple story times, man. That goes into another thing real quick. Let me make a part 2 to this.
The worst Indian, the worst enemy that an Indian can have is another Indian. Think about that. The same with black people. The worst enemy that black people have had has been another black person. The bourgeoisie Oreo cookies.
On your radio show, it was interesting last week about the Cherokee and the Freeman.
The Cherokee Freedmen. When Andrew Jackson decided that he wanted that land in the southeastern part of the United States for white people, there had already been peaceful treaties and peaceful coexistence between Indians and whites. But when he saw that there was a way to make money, a profit, he decided that he was going to round up all of the 6 they call civilized tribes, like no other tribes were civilized, and moved them out west on what became known as the Trail of Tears. He rounded them up and put them in the stockades. And thousands of these people died even before he decided in the coldest winter to make them walk from the south to Oklahoma, from Georgia, Mississippi, and Alabama to Oklahoma. The United States government told him, don't bother those people. And his answer to them was, I got the army, try and stop me. So he carried out this march. Before there was a trail of tears, and before there was a Cherokee nation of Oklahoma, there was a Cherokee nation here on the East Coast. From the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean to the northern border of Florida and the southern border of New York, all of that was Cherokee land. And in the travels of the African people here as free people before slavery, our blood mixed. And a lot of these people that were African people became part of tribes, became part of the original Cherokee Nation. And when the Trail of Tears got underway, some of these same people that were of mixed blood heritage, who had been married to Cherokees and Cherokees married them, were also put on that trail. But because of that mixture of blood, they were a little more resilient than the Cherokees, the Choctaws, the Chickasaws, and all of those other people from those 6 tribes. We would carry the bags of these people. At night, they would hunt for food. They would cook food for the survival of the tribes of people on the trail. They tell these lies about, well, no, they were slaves. Well, if they were slaves, it wasn't the same kind of a slave that the white man had. We actually served as protection for a lot of black people. And when the white man come to us and say, you know, I think that's my slave over there, no, I don't think so. He's part of us. We will protect him. And they use this thing about, oh, Cherokees had slaves. Black folks had slaves too. Y'all don't talk about that. Those free black people that were here in America before the institution of slavery. You don't talk about that. So, over the years, that relationship, that family stayed intact until lately, in the 1900s. You get these Indians that are native and white. They bear the same mindset of the same white man that we've been talking about, of wanting to control everything and everybody. And then, of course, after the American Indian movement and the onset of casinos, let me tell you, Detroit, the story behind that. The Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma have a very well-ran, lucrative casino. And members of the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma, members of the tribe, get a monthly allotment check. And then when they elected this fool, Chad Smith, who is white and Cherokee, as chief and also a lawyer and a businessman, only because of his personal dislike of dark people, he started using lies like, well, if we kick these freedmen out of the tribe, then y'all's checks will be a little more each month. And that's the issue. It wasn't about a person's color, it was about money. And if you follow the money trail, if you follow any history of any people, that when it comes to money, the greed begins to set in. So they voted the freedmen out of the tribe. People that have been in the tribe for centuries, they got bloodlines in the tribe for centuries. But it backfired on them. Because when I went to Oklahoma 15 years ago, I went there for the Red Earth powwow. And I took some of my staff with me. Some of the women were with me. Because we were invited to come there. We were met by the organizers of the powwow, and immediately they gave all of the women with me these dance shawls. Just like in Islam, women must cover their heads. Women don't go into a dance arena without a shawl. And then they escorted us into the Circle of Honor. And they spoke of me, the only voice in Washington, D.C. that speaks for Native Americans and tells the truth. And I got that honor, and I'm honored that they would do that for me. Later on that day, I met Marilyn Vann, the president of the Cherokee Freedmen's Association. We sit down, and she told me about the plight, the fight, the racism that was involved with members of the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma, and how they were just fighting to get back and get their tribal membership back, thus the benefits. And it's been a fight for 15 years now. But just recently, in August, there was a decision handed down by the circuit court here in Washington, D.C. And Judge Hogan told him, you have to reinstate these people into the tribe with all the rights and benefits. 15 years of being kicked out of a tribe that you belonged to for hundreds of years by some white Indian that decides that you're not good enough. Only because of the color of your skin, and only because of economics, more money. Shame on you, Chad Smith. When I had you on my show about 10 years ago to talk about this whole Cherokee Freedmen issue, I know you remember, I hope you see this. It was Chief Tex Hall and I can't think of his name. But anyway, these two men asked you a question. The doctor said to you, Chad, if you shake your family tree, you'll be surprised at who jumps out. That was Dr. Jack D. Forbes, Professor Emeritus, the University of California, Davis, the same man, he was a Native American from the East Coast, that wrote the proposal to start the very first Native American university, DQ University. And Chief Tex Hall, at the time, who was the president of the 3 affiliated tribes of North Dakota, the Mandan, Nadasta, and Arikara, and also the past president of the National Congress of American Indians, asked you a question you couldn't answer. He said, how do you get rid of your people when these people have been a part of your tribal governments and systems, your tribe, for hundreds of years? How do you get rid of your people? And you hung up the phone. You knew then, you knew before then that what you was doing was wrong. But guess what? God's got an answer for everything. The Cherokee Freedmen are now members of the tribe with full membership. And you are no longer the chief. And I made you a promise back then that when you ran for chief again, I would see to it that you don't get elected again, because I contacted a lot of your members that are not living in Oklahoma, and they voted you out. It's not me, Jay with a Nightwolf. I'm only doing what God told me to do. And I know some other things about you too. You don't want me to put them out there in the public. So you're a lawyer? Go on back being a white lawyer, because that's where you belong. You certainly don't belong with us. That's the end of my story, and I'm sticking to it.